Hello friends, I Pankaj Dunka, Assistant Professor JP University welcomes you all to this class of fluid mechanics. In the last class I have discussed with you about viscosity and different types of fluid and how viscosity can be seen in terms of different fluids. But the thing which I have forgotten to tell you, which I'll be covering in this particular lecture, is that why viscosity happens, or what are the causes of viscosity in different types of fluid. So whenever we talk of causes of viscosity, so we have to talk in terms of fluid. What does I mean by this? So consider fluid. So you will be having two categories or two classes, that is liquids and gases. In liquids, the cause of viscosity is basically the is the cohesive forces. So larger the cohesive forces or more the cohesive forces between the same type of molecules, more will be the viscous interaction or the viscous force or viscous resistance. Whereas in case of gases, the molecular momentum transfer plays this particular role. You know that gas in liquids and solid, the bonding is much more perfect. So because of that, the interlayer motion is difficult. So cohesive forces are solely responsible for the viscous interaction in liquids, whereas in gases the intermolecular momentum transfer is the one which is responsible for the viscosity. So let me explain this to you in terms of so consider these two layers. The bottom layer is the slow one and the top layer is moving with certain velocity del u plus del u. Now consider some molecules lying over here. As this is a gas, so they can be free to move, loiter here and there, and they will in turn obviously arrive at the top layer which is having higher velocity. Whereas this red one represents the molecules which are having higher velocity, and again as this is a gas, then they are free to move. So what will happen when the molecules from the top layer, they arrive at the bottom layer and bombard there with the molecules with a lower velocity, then they will impart the momentum to them, and hence they will create the molecules there to move faster. So that's why the molecules in this particular layer will be dragged to move in this particular direction. Whereas when the molecules from the bottom layer, these black one, arrive at the top layer, what will happen? Due to their interaction with the molecules at the top layer, the top layer will be retarded because they will be gaining momentum from the red ones. That means higher velocity molecules, and in this way the top layer will be sort of retarded. So this shear stress has now come into picture, which was in liquid, which was primarily due to cohesive forces, and in gases this is due to free molecules or molecular momentum transfer. And that is the reason why when temperature increases, what will happen? The molecule in the gases will jiggle more because they are free to move. Molecular momentum transfer is taking place. So due to that, what will happen? This interaction increases and hence the viscosity will increase. So with the increase in temperature, the molecular momentum transfer will increase and ultimately the viscous interaction will increase, or that will lead to increase in viscosity. Whereas in liquids, as the primary cause of viscosity is cohesive forces, and as temperature increases, the extent of cohesive forces goes down, reduces, and hence the viscosity or viscous interaction reduces. So in case of liquid, as the temperature shoots up, as the temperature increases, the viscous interaction or viscosity reduces. So this you should understand very clearly, that the cause of viscosity in fluid are basically twofold. That is, first one is the cohesive forces and the second one is the molecular momentum transfer. In liquids, the molecular momentum transfer is very small, or the contribution is very meager in comparison to the cohesive forces, and hence the cohesive forces dominates the viscous interaction there. Whereas in gases, the molecular momentum transfer plays a very vital role in terms of viscosity. So if we increase the temperature of a liquid, the cohesive forces reduces and hence the viscous interaction reduces. Whereas in case of gases, with the increase in temperature, the viscosity increases. Now, there are other properties of fluid as well. The first one, this is the second one which I should talk to you, is compressibility. So what is compressibility? Basically, compressibility is a measure, is a scale, you can say, is a measure of the change in the density of a substance, or ultimately the volume, the change in the density of the substance with respect to the pressure, externally applied pressure or load, or you can say with respect to temperature also. So the variation of density with respect to pressure and temperature is what the compressibility is. So here we will be discussing about pressure only. So compressibility, any substance it is a measure of its change in density or volume with respect to the externally applied pressure. Now, when we talk of compressibility, that means what I am trying to say is whether a particular substance is compressible or not. So there are two things which you should understand in priori. Remember, whenever we talk of compressibility, what I talk of is basically the whether the substance is in motion or is at rest. So if the substance is in rest, let us say, so how will you be telling that whether that particular substance is compressible or not? So the deciding parameter is the bulk modulus of elasticity. Let us say that the bulk modulus of elasticity is represented by E or K, whatsoever it is, and this is nothing but the normal stresses which are acting on normal compressive stresses which are acting on the fluid to that of the volumetric strain. And as the subject goes on, you will be able to understand that normal compressive stresses are nothing but they can be represented as pressure. So pressure is nothing but the magnitude of normal compressive stresses. So what we'll do is we will simply write it as dP, that is change in pressure, to that of volumetric strain, that is change in volume to that of original volume. Now the negative sign here symbolizes that when pressure increases, volume decreases, and when volume increases, pressure decreases. So that will be of opposing nature and hence will cancel out and make this E a positive quantity. So you all know that density and volume are inversely related. That is rho times, if you talk of mass, let us say mass, for a particular mass, for system having fixed identity of mass is basically density times volume. Okay, so you do one thing, you differentiate this equation with respect to volume. So this is del dm by dv will be rho times dv by dv plus v times d rho by dv. dv. So as I am talking of a system, that means the mass of fixed identity, so identity is not changing means mass is not changing. So therefore what I can write from here is that minus rho is equal to v d rho by dv, or in other words this dv by v with a negative sign here will be equal to d rho by rho. So what I can do is I can write this volumetric strain or the relative change in volume in terms of relative change in density with the help of this particular expression. So I'll do this. So this is dP by d rho by rho, and ultimately we can get the relative change in density as dP by E. So the relative change in density is basically a very strong function of bulk modulus of elasticity. So for ordinary pressure changes, if the bulk modulus of elasticity is very large for any particular substance, then it will be very difficult for us to compress that particular substance. Example, water. Water is having an order of magnitude of 10 to the power 6 kilonewton per meter square. This is the bulk modulus of elasticity for water. Huge value. So that's why for ordinary pressure ranges we say water is an incompressible substance due to its large bulk modulus of elasticity. So for a fluid at rest in hydrostatic condition, if you want to say that whether that particular substance is compressible or not, so this bulk modulus of elasticity is the deciding criteria for that particular substance to be compressible or incompressible. So if bulk modulus of elasticity of any substance is very large, then that particular substance will be very difficult to compress, whereas if the bulk modulus of elasticity is smaller, then that can be compressed by the ordinary pressure in the ordinary pressure range. Now come to a very different scenario, that is when the fluid is in motion. Now as the fluid is in motion, so it will be very difficult to know that whether a particular type of fluid flow is compressible or not. So what we do is we have to consider something else apart from bulk modulus of elasticity, and that is velocity, because fluid is in motion means fluid is having some velocity. So velocity has to come into picture to know whether that particular substance is compressible or not. So in motion, to know the energy balance, you always talk of Bernoulli's equation. So Bernoulli's equation says that P plus half rho V square plus rho Gz, I'm sorry, it is Z, is a constant. Okay, ideally speaking, this is what Bernoulli equation says. This is the equation of mechanical energy conservation, which I will be talking of later on. So in this equation, if we consider that datum is not changing, for the time being I am assuming that datum is not changing, means potential energy is remaining a constant, so it will go on to right side and again become a bigger constant or a smaller constant, whatsoever it is. So we can write then this equation as P plus rho V square as some another constant, some different constant. Now as you adding two things, when you can add two things, you can only add two things when their order of magnitude is same. For example, 1 meter plus 1 millimeter can't be 2 meters or 2 millimeters because their order of magnitude are different. So you have to bring them onto same order, then only they can be added up. Okay, therefore as these two, that is the pressure, and this is called as hydrostatic pressure, later on you will be able to understand the meaning of it, and this is called as dynamic pressure. So these two are adding up means their order of magnitude has to be same. So if I say the order of magnitude of pressure, that simply means the order of magnitude of change in pressure will be the same. So the order of magnitude of the pressure change will be of order of magnitude of order of magnitude of rho V square by 2. Now this is what you can get from this particular equation. So I can write this thing in differential form also. So this can be written as the order of magnitude of rho V square by 2. Okay, now you have from previous knowledge that this dP can be written as d rho by rho times E. So this is order of magnitude of d rho by rho times E, and that will be equal to the order of magnitude of rho V square by 2. Okay, now you divide the whole equation by E, again the order of magnitude will remain the same. So the order of magnitude of d rho by rho will be of the order of magnitude of rho V square by 2E. Okay, now you have something which looks similar to the previous case, that is this one, but with a slight change that now you have velocity also coming into picture. And remember, any substance is said to be compressible if the relative change in density, that is d rho by rho, is lesser than 5 or 5.4%, let us say, close to 5%. So if the relative change in density is less than 5%, then only we will be saying that particular substance is incompressible. That means if the relative change in density is going to be lesser than 5%, okay, then it is incompressible. Then only the substance is considered as incompressible. Okay, now you know from the previous knowledge, you might be knowing that the acoustic velocity or the velocity of sound, the velocity of sound is basically given by square root of bulk modulus of elasticity to that of density. Okay, so that is how we define acoustic velocity. It is basically in for isentropic condition, it is del P by del rho. Isentropic matlab means reversible condition. So if I square this up, this becomes E by rho. Okay, so why not to replace the value of E, that is rho A square, in this particular equation? The moment you do so, you will be able to get d rho by rho will be having an order of magnitude of rho V square by 2 rho A square. So this will get cancelled out and you will be getting the order of magnitude of d rho by rho as of the order V square by A square times half. Now you will also be learning in coming lectures that there is a non-dimensional number called as Mach number, and this Mach number is represented as m suffix a. Some people also write m, it doesn't matter. So this is defined as the velocity of an object or velocity of fluid to that of acoustic velocity in that particular medium of fluid, that is V by A. Okay, so I can write this expression as the order of magnitude of d rho by rho is of order of Mach number square by 2, and have already told you that for a substance to be called as incompressible, the relative change in density should be less than 5% or close to 5.4%. So therefore that simply means the Mach number square by 2 should be less than 0.054. That means Mach number should be less than square root of 2 into 0.054. That will come out to be very close value of 0.33. So whenever a fluid is flowing, whenever fluid is in motion, if the Mach number is less than 0.33, then only we will be saying that that particular fluid which is flowing is incompressible. And if that moves with higher velocity, I mean to say if the Mach number is coming out to be more than 0.33, then we will be saying that particular fluid is compressible, fluid flow is compressible. So this is the criteria of incompressible fluid flow. So if the Mach number is less than 0.33, then we will be saying that a fluid flow is incompressible. Okay, now come to the next property, that is surface tension. Okay, next property, that is surface tension. So